You might think it's obvious that Lizardmen should be top tier after they just got a DLC, but that hasn't always been the case in the past. Some of their DLCs have been a little bit of a mixed bag, let's say, but certainly they are in the best place, I would say, right now than they ever have been in the past. The last DLC actually provided a number of great units. Some other older, more useless units got buffs. Now, Lizardmen are just ridiculously strong, and in general, wide Lizardmen builds especially. I mean, you can go tall, certainly. We saw Adras in the ECL do quite well against vampire counts with a Dread Saurian build. You know, certainly can do that there. But in general, I would say in a lot of matchups, those wide Lizardmen builds are just super strong right now. You know, everything's working really well in synergy. Bastiladons with the Ark of Sotek are one of the biggest kind of benefactors. That fact that they are 140 armor, you know, only 1,000 cost, but have huge damage output potential means they're going to be a magnet for fire. Here, this is Koops versus a Dark Elf player here, taking his Lizardman. He's got Oxyotl, Skink Priest, Abyss, some Saurus, mixed, looks like one Saurus Spear, 3 regular Saurus. We've also got some Cold One Riders, Skinks pushing up on the flank here, a couple of Stalkers, got some Red Crests, a couple of regular Chameleons as well. For the Dark Elves, Bolt Thrower, you already saw open up. We've got some Dark Shards, some Fear Spears, Sad Swords, Dread Knights, Marathi up in the air. Dread Knights have also been a pretty popular pick recently in the Cav beta, which I have seen a bit of, and definitely understand, you know, in terms of, like, strong armored defensive units, you don't have a lot. In fact, you really don't have much besides the Halberds. Hardly anything, you know, with the Dark Elves, but Dread Knights kind of being that mobile AP, but also defensive in nature, can kind of plug gaps. They also trade really well against Saurus and Lizardman monsters. They're kind of like questing knights in that way, or a little bit more expensive, but Horned ones also for the Lizardmen are all probably in a pretty good place right now. But anyway, I'm missing out on this big old flank overload here. Cold One Riders come in. The Chameleon Skink's doing some really good damage from Wrathy. She does drop a Soul Stealer, which is going to hit quite a few units, keep her nice and sustained there, but the Stalkers, everything just doing a lot of shock damage from Wrathy, so she's got to run from that. The Dark Elf Infantry absolutely going to get overwhelmed here. It's just a matter of buying time for the missile units to do their work. But as the Terror Route kicks in, you can see the Dread Knights are coming to plug the gap in the line here. And they will do significant damage. These Saurus Skinks, even the Cold One's Riders are not going to be great. I mean, the Dread Knights, just 42 melee defense, 40 attack, great weapon strength, even after the poison. They are certainly holding back quite the tide there. And Dark Elves, you know, they might seem compromised, but in this type of a position, it's especially dangerous because if Murderous Prowess kicks off and you've got like a couple of units overextending trying to go after these missiles, they can just turn into a concave and burst you down, I mean, that much quicker with Murderous Prowess active, but there it goes. So the charge bonus also getting juiced on those Cold One Knights. Charge bonus probably partially worn off, but still might partially be active. I think it's like, what, 12, 13 seconds that charge bonus is active. Kind of fades linearly over time, but anyway. Yeah, Dark Elves responding well here. Marathi counter-dropping on the Ark of Sotek, trying to get rid of it. Snake Drop is going to come in once again, do some good damage, even after the Dark Shards are retreating, and even to Marathi herself will do a little bit of extra chip. He also kind of gets hung up on the mass of it here and takes a bunch of Overwatch fire from the Skinks, which is just fantastic. Dread Knights are able to hold out for some time, but, you know, eventually the numbers are going to start to tell against them. Here they just come in and crump some Saurus. Marathi has to actually pull away there and doesn't even finish the Bastiladon, which is not ideal. This other Bastiladon gets a great snake position drop, gets like way over into the back line, hits multiple units with that, especially these squishy Dark Elf units that don't have much HP, don't have any access to healing. Generally, I would say they're going to be good. I mean, pretty much all factions the Ark of Sotek's good against right now, but especially against Dark Elves, you think about those factors. But the AP missiles do help counteract that. One Ark of Sotek just straight up goes down here. The missiles, again, with that missile damage buff from Murderous Prowess, are going to be just continuing to fire relentlessly. So the Chameleons here, the Dread Knights still fighting, managed to clean up the Stalkers. Still got some Chameleon Skinks fighting. I haven't really been paying much attention to Oxyotl, what he's been firing at. I would imagine mostly Marathi as much as he can, but really, he can just shoot anything here. The Dread Knights would actually probably be a good target as well, come to think of it. But second Bastillodon, overextended, gets taken out by the Missile Concave, and this is, you know, it's almost like, not quite Wood Elf in nature, but a similar type of a situation where if you get caught in that kind of spread missile situation, Lizardmen, probably one of their biggest weaknesses, kind of talking about them as a faction as a whole, despite the fact they're very strong, they are still somewhat slow. And it's kind of interesting, you know, to think about these two factions in relation to Cathay. Cathay, you know, it'll have some similarities to Dark Elves, shielded crossbows, although it remains to be seen whether they'll be proper armor piercing or more just like, you know, the Empire crossbows where they have good AP values, but not, you know, primary AP. They're also kind of slowish like Lizardmen, although they do actually have one light, fast cavalry. You know, their flying units, their flying missile units are supposedly going to be very slow. And, I mean, just generally kind of a more defensive faction. Lizardmen, one thing you do have, even though you're slow, the poison does help kind of bring things down to your speed. But just kind of a general characteristic of the faction that in this type of a situation, like, there's not a lot to actually chase these Dark Shards. They are mostly here to just free to just continue firing, you know, relentlessly. Skinks having decent speed does help, don't get me wrong. I mean, for infantry, certainly, they can chase down infantry skirmishers if they get the opportunity. But, oof, some nice friendly fire there from those Reaper bolt throwers on anti-infantry mode, trying to take out the rest of those Saurus. There are still plenty of Saurus warriors over here, though. Chameleon Skinks, obviously, with the missile resistance, can help come in and kind of counteract these Dark Shards. And one last Manticore summon from the Skink Priest of Beasts. Gonna pop that, and Oxyotl doing a good job hanging far enough back that he still maintains that stock from Master Predator with the extra range and snipe. You know, Morathi could come back and just end him rightly pretty quickly if the Manticore weren't such an imminent threat, so the summon there also kind of helps protect Oxyotl to a degree. Dread Knights do look like they're... Nope, they did not come back. In fact, they just shattered. So all of a sudden, Lizardmen starts to kind of take an advantage there, and it's a lot of these range tools still just proving decisive. You know, the range tools of the Dark Elves certainly did a lot of work, took out some important units. Oxyotl still just strong at the end of the day, and I mean, certainly he is very strong lord for his cost if you can protect him. Soul Stealer going to be popped by Morathi here to try and finish things, but it's not going to be enough. He hits army losses, and that will be game. So, big thanks again for 2 Coops for sending that one in. Him and Nevermore duking it out. This used to be a matchup that was, you know, it's kind of gone back and forth, honestly, over time between Dark Elves and Lizardmen. I feel oftentimes, more often than not, it's been in favor of the Dark Elves, but Lizardmen right now, like, thinking through, they might have a few bad matchups. I would really need to sit down and talk with some people and really analyze to figure it out, but you know, just going by gut feeling, it doesn't seem like they really have many bad matchups at all now, and those that were potentially bad before got much easier with the advent of the Oxyotl, the Quaddle, the Chameleon Stalkers. All these kind of counter missile tools in a way allow you to advance without taking so much damage. Talk of Sotek, neither of them actually ended up paying for themselves here, just contributing enough. You know, Chameleon Skinks are still what they always have been, even though they're slightly more expensive now. They're still a ridiculously strong unit, right? So just in general, I mean, Lizardmen definitely top tier. Dark Elves are in an interesting place. They're stronger than I think most people give them credit for. But the sort of AoE bug did benefit them pretty greatly because Soul Stealer was overperforming. Now that that's not the case, but the cavalry's better, I have been seeing more of this Dread Knight play, which I'm a fan of. The Dread Knights here, both doing pretty well. Not quite what you would want, just not quite enough at the end of the day, but still pretty good. I do definitely think the Dread Knights are worth taking in a lot of matchups, this one included. Bolt Thrower also pays for itself. Dark Riders do a decent job chasing routing units. I mean, Morathi gets good value, but not enough to pay for herself, and I think that's ultimately kind of what it comes down to. Infantry also doesn't trade amazing. It trades okay in certain instances, but generally, Lizardmen infantry able to outtrade pretty effectively here. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.